All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Think back to late 2022. The explosive arrival of generative AI literally sent shockwaves through schools and universities around the globe. It forced us to reconsider the very foundations of human learning. We are looking at a massive paradigm shift here. And today, we're unpacking UNESCO's comprehensive guidance on exactly how we navigate this wild new frontier. And the sheer scale of this disruption, it's completely unprecedented. We're looking at a staggering gap between how fast people adopted this tech and how fast governments stepped in to regulate it. I mean, while ChatGPT hit a huge milestone in January 2023, guess how many countries had released regulations to manage it by July of that same year? Just one. One single country. The technology was basically sprinting, while policy was practically standing still. And that milestone from January 2023? We're talking about 100 million monthly active users. 100 million. It's an absolutely mind-boggling scale of adoption, right? And it perfectly illustrates why we urgently need a unified roadmap for our schools, our universities, and our governments. We aren't just talking about a niche tool for tech enthusiasts anymore. We're talking about a technology that instantly embedded itself into the daily lives of millions of learners globally, catching institutions completely unprepared. So to untangle this massive global challenge together, here's our agenda for today. 1. Demystifying GenAI. 2. Diagnosing risks. 3. The regulatory roadmap. 4. Creative applications. And 5. The future of learning.
All right, Section 1, Demystifying GenAI. How does it actually work?
To regulate AI, we first have to strip away the illusion of magic and look at the actual nuts and bolts. Because generative AI isn't just one big monolith. Text AI, like the standard GPTs we're all using, relies on large language models to basically predict the next most likely word based on statistics. It's kind of like superpowered autocorrect. Image AI, on the other hand, relies on generative adversarial networks, or GANs, where you literally have a generator and a discriminator competing against each other to create increasingly realistic visuals. But here's the really crucial takeaway. Despite how incredibly convincing they sound, these systems are essentially what experts call stochastic parrots. They mimic language flawlessly, starting with random or stochastic probabilities, but they don't actually comprehend the real world at all. They don't understand human relationships or scientific truths or what they're even saying. Recognizing this massive disconnect between sounding incredibly smart and actually just being a statistical parrot is step 1 in protecting our educational standards. Moving on to Section 2, Diagnosing Risks, the hidden dangers of AI. Now that we know it's definitely not magic, let's talk about the profound controversies here, because it goes way, way beyond kids cheating on their homework. We are facing some really severe hidden risks. For one, these models operate as completely unexplainable black boxes. Plus, training them requires massive amounts of computing power, which is actively worsening digital poverty in the global south. And on top of that, they're constantly polluting the internet with biases, scooping up copyrighted content without any consent, and making it way too easy to generate malicious deepfakes. There's this powerful thought from UNESCO's Assistant Director General for Education, Stefia Giannani, that really hits the nail on the head. She reminds us that AI must not usurp human intelligence, but rather, it invites us to reconsider our established understandings of knowledge and human learning. And she's absolutely right. We cannot let this tech dictate our values. It has to remain a tool that serves human intellect, pushing us to elevate our educational systems rather than just surrendering our agency to an algorithm. Which brings us to Section 3, the regulatory roadmap, a human-centered approach. So, how do we get out of this reactive panic and actually get proactive? Well, UNESCO outlines a really clear roadmap for policymakers. First up, endorsing rock-solid data protection regulations to keep users safe. Next, and this is absolutely crucial, mandating strict age limits for independent AI use. Then, validating these tools for ethical and pedagogical appropriateness. We really have to reflect on the long-term educational implications before these things ever cross the threshold of a classroom. A school shouldn't just be a testing ground for unverified tech, right? Let's pivot to Section 4, Creative Applications, Co-designing AI for Good. Okay, so once those firm guardrails are actually in place, dense pedagogical strategies become highly digestible and things get pretty exciting. Take a one-on-one AI language coach. It can offer incredible, self-paced conversational practice. But there's an immediate risk, right? Educators must be super vigilant against the inadvertent perpetuation of cultural biases found in the AI's training data.
Or how about a one-on-one art coach giving you tips on perspective? Amazing! Unless it ends up stopping learners from actually developing their own imagination. Even AI accessibility tools carry the risk of spitting out inaccurate audio descriptions. It's this constant, delicate balance of expected outcomes versus possible risks.
And this is exactly why UNESCO's framework reinforces that every single application, whether it's for coding, art, or language learning, absolutely must have a defined age limit and a required human pedagogical method to guide it. You can't just hand a student a GenAI tool and walk away. Optionally, scratch that. You never want to do that. The human teacher has to act as that essential bridge, prompting the student to think critically and ensuring the learning process stays totally active.
Finally, Section 5, the future of learning.
Looking toward the horizon, we really have to pause and consider the long-term impact of wiring this rapidly evolving technology into the minds of learners. The ultimate takeaway from this explainer is that our adoption of AI just cannot be passive. It has to be a purposefully steered, human-centered journey. Because if we let commercial hype dictate how our educational systems evolve, we're going to risk worsening global inequality and eroding human agency. But if we rigorously review these tools and force them to align with our educational priorities, we can absolutely build truly inclusive digital futures for everyone.
I'm going to leave you with one final provocative thought to chew on as these tools become a permanent fixture in our daily lives. How can we ensure that AI adapts to the needs of human learners rather than forcing human learners to adapt to AI? The answer to that question is literally going to define the next era of global education. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to keep questioning the technology around you.